Present.
Mr. President, we have a quorum. I do not have any communications or agenda changes today.
You have no, I'm sorry, I missed that one.
I have no communications or agenda changes today.
Oh, excellent.
First on the agenda, item number 2, file number 15096, claim filed by Casey Grant Garza against the Department of Public Health, the Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, the Department of Emergency Management, for illicitly violating Ministry of Code Section 67.21 and 67.25 for failure to respond to immediate disclosure requests in a timely and/or complete manner. On the question of jurisdiction,
Oh.
for a motion.
So moved.
Well, how does this work? Do I second it? Only two of us?
Actually, we don't need we just need a motion and a vote today.
So let's just say we have jurisdiction, we decided, but
On the question of jurisdiction, the motion passes unanimously.
so is there any public comment on the motion for jurisdiction? Seeing none, let's continue.
Yes, the motion to find jurisdiction passes unanimously. As there are additional departments, would you like to grant anything above the standard 5 minutes today?
Yes.
How much time would you like to grant, Mr. Garza?
Let's go with 10. That's for Mr. Garza.
Mr. Garza?
Okay, please go ahead and get started. You have in front of you have in front of you a schedule I made as far as the receipt of what I received. It's SJ sequence, meaning sole jurisdiction sequence. Basically, I submitted an IDR on 6/9, and the IDR consisted of, how do I get the IDR consisted of informing these 4 different agencies, the San Francisco Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, the Department of Public Health, and the Department of Emergency Management about what I consider to be, RIG procedures and policies and everything else. I'm an individual who's been seeking his health care at the Department of Public Health and has been constantly thwarted by not only bad process but incorrect methodology. The sheriff, as far as I've been able to deduce, has an MOU with the Department of Public Health to provide security. It is not there to enforce citizens' rights for ADA rights or anything along these lines. When I have called for the San Francisco Police Department, the Department of Emergency Management has told me that the sheriff has sole jurisdiction of these buildings and these areas. So that's why I sunshined them for that policy, specifically asking, for the policy regarding the sole jurisdiction, and also what Code 800 meant, because that was on part of what I received, and who trains these people in ADA compliances and everything else, because if somebody's seeking their health care, they certainly need somebody in security who knows about ADA law, as opposed to just being a rent-a-cop and escorting people out. What I received, as you have in front of you, from the DEM, I received something on 6/12 that was mailed to me. They, of course, are saying that, they sent it out timely, but I did not receive it in the mail until 6/12. Here it is, 6/12 was when I received it. For an IDR, it's supposed to be within 24 hours. If they have an excuse, they could have emailed me and said, oh, well, something's in the mail to you. Let's not worry about it. The Department of Emergency Management did not meet. And then when they sent me this on 6/12, it was incorrect. It was not what I requested at all. It did, however, show where the sheriff, has told them that I was a 5150 subject, which is, of course, basically poisoning the well. It also shows where the sheriff informed them that I was Code 800, which is a mentally disturbed person, which is, of course, poisoning the well. Are these people qualified to make these decisions, or is it just something that they do to evade people's rights? At that point, I was still calling to send out a San Francisco police officer so that my constitutional and ADA rights would be, not thwarted by this rent-a-cop, the sheriff's department. when I went to follow up with Annie Cronenberg, the director, to talk to her about these policies and other people, I have videos of basically where they hung up on me, laughed at me, would not make an appointment, so that I could show her the videos and say, we need to get this corrected because, you know, people are entitled to their health care without these games being played on them, you know, through the sheriff's department with a, you know, a memo of understanding to the Department of Public Health, which in effect abrogates, you know, their rights, a citizen's rights to his medical care. Moving on to the San Francisco Police Department. Once again, I received something on 6/12 from them, from their POL person, and they of course said, there's no such thing as a sole jurisdiction. You know, that's also, I'm tracking down this policy because that's what they use when you call for a police officer. Well, there's sole jurisdiction. Well, there's no such thing according to the police department, the San Francisco Police Department. The Department of Emergency Management, of course, pointed the finger at the Department of Public Health. No, actually they pointed the finger to the sheriff and said, well, the sheriff, will have that. Well, interestingly enough, I got the response from the sheriff, and naturally, the sheriff does not have a sole jurisdiction policy whatsoever. What they did send me, though, was an MOU. When they first contacted me, they told me it was too much, it was too voluminous, it was this, that, which wasn't with the proper response, because a few days later they sent me everything. It was so voluminous and everything. This was a simple mouse click. The MOU, of course, in it nowhere states that the officers are trained in ADA. What it does state, though, is that they're paid $12 million by the Department of Public Health to provide security, public safety, and enforcement services there. Well, but those enforcement services aren't for the patient, aren't for the citizens. They're basically a rent-a-cop. Let's say you own a store and you're renting security, and the clerk just doesn't feel good about somebody. She just calls security and says, have them removed, even if the store is breaking the law. This is the exact same consequence. All right, so this, and then when I tried to follow up on this with Mr. Nico, many times I went and I got the videos of trying to follow up on what this meant, because this pertains to the section 800 that I was called by his person. Who trained these people to call me 800 in his own sheriff's department? Nowhere in this MOU does it talk about ADA, does it talk about anything for people's rights. It's a wonderful Machiavellian illusion, but that's exactly what it is. Then the last person, and the most glorious, because let's not forget, I'm asking for this to be pushed up to ethics as official misconduct, was the response I received from the luscious Department of Public Health. The IDR went out on 6/9. I wrote them on 8/4, saying that I've not received anything back from them. 8/4. Ms. Garcia and the PIO, and let's not forget, I've been in that place trying to follow up with them, and I have videos on YouTube where the sheriff would escort me out and not let me have access to the public information officer or to follow up on the IDR. Once again, thwarted by rigged methodology. They write me back the same day, 8/4, to say the San Francisco Department of Public Health has no responsive records to your request. This was for an IDR 6/9. This is the very first thing I've heard from them. And it's our understanding that the sheriff's department, once again, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else because they know that when you go to that other person, they're going to fail. This is a nested loop of repetitive failures, deliberately set and created by everyone winking at each other, turning a blind eye, and when the rubber hits the mat, the citizen is screwed out of his entire rights by a system that's set up to screw people out of their medical care and every other which way, because the Department of Public Health is paying $12 billion to the sheriff to screw anybody who walks in because they're just security. And if a citizen tries to call for his police rights, the Department of Emergency Management says, well, they've got sole jurisdiction, we can't send someone out. So, let me play a little tape that I have, because I've got 2 minutes left. Can you please switch this so I can start the tape? To show you what happened, even on 8/24 afterwards. Okay, can you tell me which button I need to push here? Okay, here it is. Go away. Here we go. And to know that you have no hope, no humanity, no compassion. Hello? Yes, hi, who am I speaking with?
Supervisor Doherty, how may I help you?
Supervisor who? Hi, Supervisor Doherty. I'm calling because I called for a civil standby San Francisco Police Department at 101 Grove because I've been denied access and accommodation. And I asked if I got an ADA representative. I've just been told that the sheriff was here. I'm sorry, I've been standing outside waiting for a police officer. Could you please explain what the problem is?
So let me look up your call. At what time did you call in?
9:15. And I was just told by the last person that there was a sheriff's person here. Is that sole jurisdiction illegal policy that they're circumventing my rights for, police, civil, and constitutional
Actually,
rights?
101 Grove is under the jurisdiction of the Sheriff's Department. That is their building, and they are there.
And I am calling for the San Francisco Police Department. Are you invading my constitutional and civil rights to police stuff at 101 Grove?
No, I'm merely stating that that is what has occurred. Are you out front?
Yes, I've been out front for 30 minutes waiting for you to send an officer so that my ADA rights could be, enforced, because the San Francisco Sheriff does not enforce people's rights here. They're merely security.
Okay. So, what is your name?
My name is Jason Garza, like it was at 9:15.
I'm sorry, you're speaking rather fast.
Jason Garza. Are you sending out someone or not?
I will be, but I need to get your information so that I can send you some help.
Well, I don't know. Last time they got my information and they didn't send me the
that
help.
you're very upset, but there's certain information that I need to obtain from you so that I can grant you.
Okay, so you basically get the drift, and guess what? I was there for 2 hours and no one showed up. 2 hours! Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, who are we going to hear from first? We just go in order?
Maybe ask if there's any,
Oh, sorry. Is there anyone that wants to offer facts and evidence that support the complainant?
No, I'm here representing the Sheriff's Department. I'm not sure when you're going to.
Okay, hang tight.
Response.
So do I see no one offering facts and evidence, Mr. Clerk? How should we call it the
let's call it
response?
in order of the agenda. Maybe, is there a representative from the Department of Public Health who would like to say anything?
No.
Would you like to present your response? I know you did mail something in, but would you like to make any statements?
That would be kind of helpful for us.
Hello,
Your name?
Nancy Soraya, with the Department of Public Health. Sorry for being late, coming from a different meeting. So the only additional information I have other than what Mr. Garza presented is that on June 9th, the same day we received his request, since it was an immediate disclosure request, I sent an email to our Security Director, Basil Price, asking him if he had any records, asking him to review the request for any records, and that same day our Security Director responded to me saying that DPH does not have records. And I believe it was the next day, June 10th, that I checked with Mr. Mark Miko at the Sheriff's Department. Sorry, it's been a while, because Basil Price, our Security Director, told me that the information being requested falls under the jurisdiction of the Sheriff's Department. So, as usual, I checked with Mr. Miko regarding public records requests, and he responded to me letting the department know that he's responding to Mr. Garza's request.
I believe you have a copy of those emails before you today.
Yeah, they're in our packet.
The question is, did I get them?
Thank you for making those copies.
The answer is no.
Is there anyone that, should I ask for?
If that is the remainder of the response. I don't know if it came up regarding when the response was sent to Mr. Garza.
Yeah, I'm actually a little confused on that. This is not Q&A, but the ODR was on the 9th, and I saw an envelope on the 12th. You're saying you responded.
An envelope?
That was the
Something like
Department of Emergency
Oh,
Management.
sorry, okay. So I guess my basic question is, when did you respond?
So we responded to Mr. Garza on August 4th.
Okay, so that's kind of late.
Yeah, I mean, I should have made the assumption that because I contacted Mr. Nico and their department would be responding, that
We'll be
that
coming,
response.
that's okay. We'll be coming back around to that.
No, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to know what you explained, that received the IDR, you turfed it to the appropriate agency, but did not then get back to Mr. Garza until much later after we contacted you, wondering what DPH's response was. Okay, all right.
What does she mean by the appropriate agency? DPH is the appropriate agency.